A main reason that I didn't go back was because somebody asked, can you control him? Like, can you control Jimmy? If you can control Jimmy, we would think about having him back. I was like, you don't got to worry about it. Can't nobody control me because I don't do nothing that's just drastically stupidly crazy. I do not do that. If that's what y'all worried about, you good.
It has almost been 3 years since Jimmy Butler's tenure in Philadelphia, and since then, boy, has the league changed. I vividly remember that exciting 2018-2019 season with a passion, as it was the beginning of the end of the process Sixers roster that I had grown to love over that long period of time. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I was the biggest Jimmy Butler fan during that Sixers run, or even a fan of the trade, but I always respected his talent, heart, and competitive spirit that he always brought to the table and my favorite team of all time. But for some reason, his presence here didn't sit right with me overall. And to this day, I've never really come to grips with the Jimmy Butler experience in Philadelphia, especially his fallout or the fallout in conjunction with the Ben Simmons complete meltdown that would occur years later. Long story short, Jimmy Butler's time here was an inflection point in Philadelphia 76ers history that has affected the team to this day. For good or worse, you tell me. Regardless, this is a story that I need to tell to finally be at peace with the situation and how it all played out. This is the story of Jimmy Butler and the 76ers. The season prior, the Philadelphia 76ers made the playoffs for the first time since the process began in 2013, making it all the way to the second round, where they would eventually lose to the Boston Celtics 3-1. Now, after witnessing that growth that whole season, with a emerging Joel Embiid finally coming to the forefront, and a rookie point guard and Ben Simmons doing his thing and wowing crowds throughout the whole league, management decided that it was time to go all in for a championship and hunt for superstars that would be a final piece in the championship puzzle. A swing and a miss LeBron free agency, general manager Twitter scandal, and an 8-6 record to begin the following season. Later, the Sixers put themselves at a crossroads, which saw them ultimately obtaining Mr. Jimmy Butler from the Minnesota Timberwolves, trading away Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, as well as a draft pick. And let me tell you, I was not happy at all for that trade, because I feel as though we really rushed our timeline as a squad. But we can get more into that later. Fast forward, Jimmy settles in nicely with the squad, so much so to the point where he hit 2 buzzer beaters in his first 3 weeks of wearing his blue Sixers jersey. And at this point, I'm starting to feel somewhat excited because, why not? More weeks pass, and the team is looking really solid in the win department. Nothing dominating per se, but an above-average, solidly good team, winning most of their games. At the trade deadline, the Sixers end up acquiring Tobias Harris and a few role players from the Los Angeles Clippers for a few draft capital and other younger players. This is when I start to really begin to question the Jimmy Butler trade move. Why was this necessary? Anyway, the Sixers plowed through the rest of the regular season with their new acquired Big Four, potentially Big Five if you want to count J.J. Redick, undoubtedly a top 5 starting rotation in the league, and end the season third in the Eastern Conference at 51-31. In the playoffs, they defeat the Brooklyn Nets in the first round 4-2, which was a very exciting series, by the way. If you have not watched it, you actually should. But ultimately, they lose to the Toronto Raptors in the second round, legit taking them to the brink of elimination in the final seconds, ending up on the wrong side of history, viewing the Kawhi shot as the loser. And it's crazy because people really forget that Jimmy Butler tied the game with a clutch full-court layup only seconds prior to that Kawhi shot, but that'll be lost to history, as it always is. Either way, Jimmy carried that playoff 76ers squad and should be commended for that. Like, I remember that joint like it was yesterday, bro. Jimmy Butler was playing like a monster. And obviously it makes sense because that is what the man does. He is a playoff player, misses 16 games postseason. But I remember being in awe that whole run, how like Joel Embiid and Ben, didn't play their best, but they had a leader. Free agency comes and nobody really knows what is going to happen. I'm expecting the squad to honestly choose either between Tobias or Jimmy. If I recall, I didn't believe that it could all work out with everybody coming back, especially J.J. Redick. I did have some hope that they would be able to sign Tobias and Jimmy together, but in conjunction with eventually having to pay Ben Simmons or extend his rookie deal, I knew that one of them were going to have to drop. And I kind of figured that it would be Jimmy. I thought Tobias was going to be the better fit, at least in the regular season. And ultimately, I was right. Jimmy Butler will be traded to the Miami Heat in a sign and trade deal for one Josh Richardson, who at the time we all called, at least in Philadelphia, a younger Jimmy Butler. And we definitely need to hold that collective L as a city. Anyway, we re-signed Harris on a 5-year deal, as well as signing Al Horford for a $100 million deal as well. All of that money that was going to Jimmy thus went to Horford. And I don't have to keep on going with this narrative. You already know what has happened the last 2 years since that infamous free agency. Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat have made 2 Eastern Conference Finals appearances, as well as 1 Finals appearance, while the 76ers, your 76ers, our 76ers, still haven't made it past the second round, let alone even getting close to a Game 7 elimination game. What the hell happened here? So my 3 conclusions of the Jimmy Butler tenure here to finally put this period to rest forever, as I really need it. I've been, still quelling over these thoughts for years and not letting that pain go. The Sixers should have never traded for Jimmy in the first place, especially if they did not plan on re-signing him in the offseason. If you remember, they had a top 5 roster in the league in terms of chemistry, with a young, hungry squad and core that was hell-bent on proving to the league that they were Bulls and winners post-process. And it's not even me coming from a biased fan perspective. National pundits had the Sixers winning a championship that season. 2017-2018, go look it up. Bulls like Stephen A. really picked the Sixers to go to the championship, who really didn't even know what they were doing at that time. They were just having fun and playing basketball. You build off of that. Bro, I remember that 16-game winning streak, bro. I was in, it was junior year? And just having, so much pride in the city, the whole Meek Mill thing, the Eagles, their own championship run. The city was on fire, and we gave that all away for a rental, a 6-month rental. Look at the teams who are winning right now throughout the actual league. They have continuity year after year, rarely changing up their key pieces. Meanwhile, the Sixers have had a different starting 5 every season since Embiid got healthy. This is not conducive and a reason why we can never win. And this failure really has to fall on the front office, because why would you trade your young core for a player known to expose dysfunctional organizations when you were a dysfunctional organization yourself? Also ownership. And if anything, it's majorly on ownership, bro. Like dumb as hell, dog. The team was 1 year removed from the process, which they didn't even see through in the first place because they had to fire, or not had to, but they fired the architect of that whole mainframe, Mr. Sam Hinkie. Shout out to him, before he could actually finish his plan. They also had a Twitter burner scandal with their GM, Brian Colangelo, who was placed there by the league, who took Hinkie's job, a former #1 pick in Markelle Fultz. Hopefully he is doing well. Completely collapsing and led by young players in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, who didn't have any structure around them, especially with veteran leadership, give them the right method of attacking the league, not only as individuals, but as a team, as a tandem, as a duo. You could really tell that something was fishy around the Jimmy Butler situation in Philly when Tobias was actually brought in, or at least traded for, close to the deadline that season. I really knew that they effed up, because why would they do that? They basically pushed all their chips in, and you could tell that they had screwed up with Jimmy and they needed a backup plan just in case. There was no leadership among Sixers management and coaching staff, and they were not ready for a player of Jimmy Butler's mental stature. Just listen to Jimmy and what he had to say about the organization.
Hell yeah, it was difficult. Man, it was so different on any given day. Me as a person, as a player, I didn't know who the was in charge. I think that was my biggest thing. I didn't know what the to expect whenever I would go into the gym, whenever I go into the plane, whenever I go into the game. I would think I was as lost as the next month.
Meaning there was just a lot of voices.
Yeah. And
a lot of input from a lot of different places.
And just so much going on any given day. I didn't even know who to talk to.
And Brett Brown even admitted this on a recent podcast. All in all, from everything I have read, it really seems like the organization had to make a choice, and it came down between Ben or Jimmy, because Ben needed the ball in his hands. Like I said prior, Jimmy really carried us that whole playoffs as the primary ball handler. And with the hype surrounding the Australian big man, it was clear that the franchise was obviously going to pick their number one overall asset rather than an aging 30-year-old superstar. And man, did we screw up. So no, when people make fun of the Sixers and say that we chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy, they're incorrect. We chose Ben Simmons over Jimmy. And it's funny how, like, Jimmy still likes to stir the pot even more, where when he beat us last year, he said Tobias Harris over me, just to create more dysfunction in the city. But it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason. So I look fondly upon the good old times with Jimmy, and even before then with the Sixers. We were not able to grow our squad organically, but it is what it is. So I got everything off of my chest, and I feel better. Thanks for watching.